Welcome to live coverage here from Day 2 at the Pacific Asia Curling Championships here at the beautiful Karuizawa Ice Park curling facility, this purpose-built facility, magnificent 6-sheet curling rink. And here's our feature matchup on today's coverage. We've got China versus Japan in the women's event. China's carrying a 1-0 record, and Japan 1-1 coming into this game. I'm Hans Fraunlab, and I'm joined today by Sander Rolvag. And Sander, this is going to be a really interesting matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to have a look at the standings here. You'll see Korea at the top with 2 wins. China has won a game, but only beating New Zealand. That's maybe one of the weaker teams in the group this year. While Japan also beating Australia, but losing out to Korea yesterday. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a test for both teams. Evenly matched teams, I would say. And here we have the Chinese lineup for today. It's Wang Rei as lead, Yu Xin Rei second, Lu Jin Li as third, and Lu Xia as skip. Alternate player being Mei Yia and coach Sang Wei.
And they're facing the local home team, Team Japan. At lead today for Japan is Yumi Funayama. Playing second stone is Kaho Onodera. Third stone, the young player Sayaka Yoshimura. And the skip, the veteran Ayumi Ogasawara. Alternate player is Anna Omiya, and they're coached by Fuji Miki. So we're lined up here today, Japan versus China. And this is really promising to be an exciting contest. Japan is coming off of a tough loss against Korea yesterday. They'll be looking to rebound today in front of their home fans. There we see the Karuizawa Ice Park Curling Hall, a magnificent venue. Of course, this town was where Olympic curling really came back and was reborn.
Thank you.
We see the stone colors. China has the advantage of last rock in the first end. They'll be playing the red stones, and Japan is playing the yellow stones.
So Japan will kick off this first end. China having last stone advantage. As the women's are playing a double round robin, they have predetermined last stone, so they'll have the hammer each once in the 2 matchups. So no tee draw before the games. Japan just looking to draw the forfeit here, so will allow China to play the hit if they choose to do so. And it seems like they will.
Yes, a conservative opening gambit here in the first end. Both teams just getting used to the ice conditions. Chinese lead Wang Rei looking to play the takeout.
Yeah, as we mentioned yesterday, it's pretty normal for teams to just start off on an easy note, just make a few simple shots, build some confidence, just get really warmed up, and surely if there's some nerves out there, you might just want to calm them down. And maybe it's just early in the morning, so you just want to wake up. Well, that might be the case for some players. I know I'm not that good those first couple of ends early in the morning, so it's always nice to just make a few simple shots to get started.
Japanese lead Yumi Funayama. I almost said Yumi Hayashi. That's how I knew her when she first met. Of course, she's married now. Yumi Funayama.
So Wang Rei then with a second takeout. Looking to stick around this time, and she will. She's playing controlled weight there.
Nice stone. We've got 5 sheets of action going here in this round of the Pacific Asia Curling Championships. We have a women's event and a men's event, and so both men and women are playing here in this draw. But our features match is in the women's event. Nice stone there from Kaho Onodera.
Yushin Rei, second player and vice skip for Team China. Also just looking for the hit and stick, no problems.
Well, good sweeping from the Japanese. They're saving that shot. Remove the Chinese stone, but they roll out themselves. Onodera there thanking her sweepers. So we've seen some real growth in participation in the Pacific Asia region of world curling. When I started as an international player for New Zealand back in the late 1990s, there were only 4 countries competing in this region. Now there are 7. In the men's event, we have Japan, we have Korea, we have China, Australia, New Zealand, Chinese Taipei, and Kazakhstan.
And Kazakhstan only playing their second year, I believe.
That's right. So it's been tremendous to see the growth of curling, and of course Kazakhstan is bidding for the Winter Olympics in the future, and so their interest in winter sports in general has really escalated, and it's great to see the Kazakhstan team here competing.
Yeah, Alexander Orlov and his team just next to our sheet here, as we see Sayaka Yoshimura playing ahead out wide on the wing here. Again, we just like yesterday, we had a situation here where China could have put up the corner guard with no stones in play, and China forced it to, but did choose to come to the house.
It's a real tactical choice for teams, Sander. If you've got the last rock in the first end, some teams really like to go for it. Other teams prefer to just play conservatively and bank a little time on the clock and just get a feel for the game. I think either tactic can work, but you'll often see confident teams really going aggressively in the first end if they have last rock. But in our 2 games that we've seen so far, the teams have been electing to be a little bit more conservative to open the game. In-turn draw here for Japanese third, Sayaka Yoshimura. First end of play, live coverage here from the Pacific Asia Curling Championships 2014. Good work from the brushers there, bringing the stone all the way into the 8-foot circle.
The other upside by playing a blank end here in the first is you will save some time. Still playing what will soon to be the old time clocks, where you have 73 minutes plus a timeout to play your game. You saw Japan and Karuizawa yesterday were not struggling for time, but they were certainly a bit tight, and they were stressing a wee bit in the 9th end to allow themselves enough time to play the 10th. So could be a factor as well.
Yeah, teams will try to manage their clock and get to the 5th end break with a certain amount of time left on the clock. That's sort of a secondary performance goal for many teams, that they like to get to the 5th end break with about 40 minutes left on the clock. But as you say, Sander, sometimes the time clock can put undue pressure on teams if they're not managing the clock well. So here we're seeing early in the game both teams are banking a little bit of clock by just playing straightforward shots. Out-turn take out of 10. They really like to save the shooter. Nice stone there from Ayumi Ogasawara.
Of course, the thinking time is going to be introduced at the European Championships later this month, where the clock will not run while the stone's in motion, meaning you won't get punished for playing lots of draws and instead of takeouts.
You can see Chinese third Lu Jinli holding a stopwatch there and If you're new to curling, curlers will use a stopwatch to give them an idea how quickly the stone's traveling down the ice. So it helps determine how much the stone is going to curl, the pace of the stone.
Yeah, so most teams, they have certain times for different takeouts. You know, we'll have control takeouts, normal weight, some really hard ones coming down, and that's it's just nice to keep in check, knowing that you're throwing the right weights. If all the team members are playing the same weights, it's a lot easier to manage the curls and know and anticipate what's going to happen to the stones.
Absolutely right, Sander. At this top level of elite play, most players can technically throw the rock straight at the brim. So that's not so much of a differentiator, but separates the good teams from the great teams is really, really precise weight control. And the stopwatch is a really important tool for that. In-turn takeout attempt. China has lost rock here on end number 1. Japan's trying to force them to take one if they can.
Had a really good game yesterday. Karuizawa made some key shots to hold Japan in the game against Korea.
Yes, both skips in our game yesterday were absolutely awesome. They were making great shot after great shot, and the game really could have gone either way, but there was some really spectacular shooting, and so if that's day 1 of the tournament, imagine what we're going to be like by the time we get to the finals. It's really a feast for curling, and we hope you're enjoying the coverage here on World Curling Television.
Yeah, because surely the teams will be getting more and more used to the ice conditions over the week. It's always different coming to a new arena, new ice pad, new surface. Ice looks really good though, and as long as it keeps consistent over the week, you'll see teams probably start playing even better. So last stone here of the first end for Chinese skip, Lucia.
And it's a bit of a nose hit there, so perhaps a small error. They were looking probably for the blank, but they nose hit, and China does score 1. So that's probably a small victory for the Japanese there, forcing the Chinese to take 1 as opposed to blanking the first end. So Japan will take the hammer into the second end of play, but China's on the board. They're up 1-0. There you see a wide shot of all of the action here in this session on day 2 here at the Pacific Asia Curling Championships.
And that would be the coach benches and the umpire benches on the back of the scoreboards here.
Since curling came into the Olympics again officially in 1998, what I would call the professionalization of curling has really taken off, and so most of the top teams have got dedicated coaching and really do apply science to the game. It's really transformed the game in many respects. So on we go to end number 2. Japan with the last rock now, and so here is Chinese lead Wang Rei. China playing the red stones, Japan playing the yellow stones. It'll be interesting here to see if the conservative play from the first end carries over into the second end. As this stone slides a bit deeper into the house, it might tempt the Japanese to think about a corner guard as opposed to a hit. Let's see what they do. No temptation there for the corner guard yet by the looks of things, Sander. Straight up and down.
I think you see a lot of teams throw the corner guard at this point. At least when you're down a point, you just want to get back in it, score 2, but you got plenty of time, 9 ends to go.
Yumi Funayama removes the Chinese stone. Japan lies 1. There's Yumi. Yumi and Ayumi have been teammates in Japanese teams going back into the late 1990s. They both have enormous international experience, including at Olympic level. And this team is very, very popular in Japan. We had an enormous Japanese media contingent here to follow the exploits of their team. And great support here from the locals as well. Funayama with the out-turn hit. Onodera, Yoshimura on the brushes. Nicely done. Little smile there from Yumi.
Well, since not too much is happening in this end, in our future game between China and Japan, we can look elsewhere in the arena. There are other games going on in the women's draw and the men's draw. Do you care to update us on the scores, Hans?
Sure. On Sheet E, we've got in the women's draw Korea versus Australia. Korea opened that game with a 2 in the first end with the hammer, so the Korean team's building on their performance from yesterday with a quick start against the Australians. In the men's event on Sheet C, we've got Japan versus Kazakhstan just finishing up their first end. Japan has the last rock, and they're currently lying 5, and so a tough job here for the team from Kazakhstan to hold the Japanese, and we'll see what happens there in a moment. Also in the men's event, Korea versus Australia. Korea had last rock in the first end. They scored 1, so Australia would be quite happy with that. That's a force. They'll take the hammer into end 2. And on Sheet A, New Zealand versus Chinese Taipei. New Zealand had the hammer in the first end. They blanked, and so there's no score after one end, as New Zealand takes the last rock into end number 2. Kaho Onodera, out-turn takeout attempt. So shot for shot here in the early going in this game. End number 2, it's a 10-end contest. As Sanders said, this is in the women's event, it's a double round robin. There are 5 teams rather, competing here at the Pacific Asia Curling Championships. Top 4 will advance to the semi-final round. It's a double round robin. Top 2 teams will advance to the Women's World Curling Championships, which will be held in March in Sapporo, Japan. So Japan, as the host nation, actually already has a place in the Women's Worlds. So if Japan were to finish in first or second place in this event, they would go on to the Worlds. If they don't finish in the top 2, they will still have a place at Worlds as the host nation. But with the revised system of Olympic qualification, getting to the Worlds is a real mission for every curling country, really, because that guarantees them at least an attempt to qualify for Olympics through the Olympic qualifying event if they don't qualify directly. So I know, Sander, Sochi doesn't seem so long ago, but the road to Pyeongchang in 2018 has already begun.
Yep.
And this is the start of the road.
Yeah, well, most teams will get together for this season with 2018 in mind. And so we have seen a lot of team changes all over the world for this season. You might see some new changes next season already, but at least from next season on, you probably see the same teams all the way through to 2018.
It's definitely not an overstatement to say that the advent of curling in the Olympics has really changed the game at the elite level. As you say, Sander, team planning, team changes. It used to be almost a yearly cycle. Teams would look at their performance at the end of a year and reevaluate, and team changes might happen. Now teams at the top level are starting to think in a 4-year cycle instead of a 1-year cycle. So instead of planning for next year, they're really planning for the next 4 years. So it's a big level of commitment for the top level athletes to really make a life commitment to try and reach that ultimate goal of competing at the Olympic Games.
You know, this is different also for different nations. In some countries you'll have teams where they can just pick and choose as they want, personally, but some teams will, the federation will pick teams for you and have more of a say of who's going to play together and who's going to play which position. So that's also a bit different.
That's absolutely right, Sander. Of course, Olympic qualification for curling is quite stringent, so there are almost 50 member countries now currently in the World Curling Federation. Only 10 countries actually get to qualify to compete at the Olympics. So the first job for any nation is to actually qualify yourself into the games. So in Korea, the only country that actually has a place guaranteed at the games at this moment in time is the host nation, Korea. That means every other country in the world has to perform at World Championship level and accumulate qualification points to earn their country a place in the games. And as you said, Sander, once the country is qualified into the games, then the country has to select their national team that will compete for them at the games. So it's a long road, but the first task for every country is to earn a place at the Olympics. And the first step on that ladder is this Pacific Asia Curling Championships. Japanese skip Ayumi Ogasawara playing the intern takeout.
Not sure if we mentioned what happened to Kazakhstan yet, did we?
We haven't. When we last left them, Alexander Orlov was facing 5 stones, and what wound up happening there, Sander?
Well, he wrecked on the guard on his last shot, leaving a draw for Japanese skip Morizumi, drawing for 6, and he made that shot, so they're 6 up after one end. So that's going to be a very hard game for Kazakhstan to fight back into, especially knowing that the Japanese boys throw the high hard ones that well.
That's definitely a long road back against the team with the hitting quality of Japan. That's absolutely right. But full credit to the team from Kazakhstan. You know, every country has appeared on the international curling scene for the first time once, and they're here competing against the best and learning their craft. And they'll doubtlessly improve not only just through the tournament, but over the years.
Yeah, everyone's got to start somewhere.
Absolutely.
We've seen teams and nations go from, what can I say, not so good to very good teams in not too long of a time, especially China at the Olympics, making the playoffs, just playing great curling. Maybe 4 or 5 years ago, you wouldn't see them being anywhere near that standard. So
that's absolutely right. And again, the Olympics changed everything. You know, before the 1990s, the curling nations of the world were really concentrated in North America and Europe. The idea of Asian curling or Pacific region curling was a real curiosity. It was very rare for a country from Asia and the Pacific region to even make it qualify into a World Championships. It was a real novelty act. And the idea of curling in Japan in the 1970s or the 1980s to a European or to a North American was a genuine novelty. And as I said, now everything has changed. The quality, we've had a Chinese women's team win a World Championship. We've had teams qualifying with distinction in many disciplines out of this region of the world, and the standards improving all the time.
So last shot there of the second end.
So we've seen the favor return from Japan. Attempted blank sticks in the house, and so the small advantage, the small victory that the Japanese won in the first end, they've handed back to the Chinese after the second end. And attempted blank there, not quite rolling off the rings. Japan scores 1, and we're level. So that was almost a mirror image, Sander, of the first end.
Yep, pretty much exactly the same again. And now it's going to be interesting to see if China now will be the aggressor side and maybe put corner guard up, maybe score a few points. They certainly played a few rocks now, so there's no real excuse not to put some stones in play.
Yeah, the team should be very comfortable with the ice conditions now. And as you say, Sander Olvik, the key decision for them will be when to pull the trigger with the last rock, throw up a guard, mix it up a little. Those are the kind of things that teams discuss between the ends. How are we going to play this end? Every end has a bit of a plan. And the lead position really does dictate the execution of that plan. And here is Japanese lead Yumi Funayama. Playing the in-turn. We hope you're enjoying our live coverage from the Pacific Asia Curling Championships, web streamed around the world live on YouTube. If you've got questions or if you've got comments, by all means, send us a tweet, send us an email, phone us, come drop in on us on the rink. We'd be happy to hear from you. So a bit of a change of the tactics here from the Japanese, getting a bit more aggressive. Yumi throws a center guard as opposed to coming into the rings. So likely that we're going to see a few more rocks in play this end, Sander.
Yeah, but it's a very defensive option here from Team China. They're going to draw to the wing here. Normally the more aggressive play would be to come around the center guard, even throw up a corner, ignoring the center. But drawing to the wing is definitely more of the defensive option, because you'll probably see Japan not being willing to ignore the red stone, although certainly easier when it drops straight by the back line.
Yeah, quite a conservative play. So it's a young Chinese team, Sander. Do you think it might be a case of early nerves just in terms of playing such a veteran international team as this Japanese team?
That could very well be the case, but maybe they've also just gone through the game plan with their coach and just feel like playing a defensive game suits them better than getting too many stones in play.
Well, that's an excellent point, Sander, and exactly right. Some teams really do try to focus on playing to their own strengths as opposed to responding to what the opposition is trying to do.
And certainly if you play very defensive against an aggressive team, sometimes you'll actually frustrate that aggressive team, and you might not winning just because of that. So just having patience is a good thing in curling.
Yeah, patience is a really good word. I was just going to use the same one. Curling is a bit like chess on ice, and sometimes being patient and building things up is an important part of the tactics. You have to wait for your opportunity sometimes. And sometimes if you try to force that opportunity, it goes badly for you.
It's all about well-timed aggression.
That's a great phrase. I like that. Well-timed aggression. Let's see if the Japanese can do a little bit of well-timed aggression on this stone at the back of the 12-foot. Kaho Onodera on the in-turn. Trying to remove that Chinese stone. China has last rock here on end number 3. You're watching live coverage from the Pacific Asia Curling Championships 2014 here in Karuizawa, Japan. The beautiful ice park curling hall, part of a complex and really part of the legacy of the Olympic Games. This town has got quite a unique distinction in Olympic history. This is the only place in the world that has hosted an event from both the Summer and the Winter Olympics. In 1964, of course, the Summer Olympics were in Tokyo, and the equestrian events were held right here in Karuizawa.
And equestrian events would be...
This would be jumping around on horses. Yes. That's absolutely right, Sander. Show jumping and dressage.
I did not know that until yesterday, so there might be more than me out there wondering what equestrian events are.
Yes, so it's a... And of course, the curling event was held here in 1998, the first time that curling was back as a full medal sport in the Olympics. And the legacy of that is really this arena. So the Olympic spirit has continued on here in Japan. This beautiful complex. Directly adjacent here is an outdoor speed skating track. And the ice sports and winter sports are really going vibrantly here in Japan. Trying to come around the center guard. Great sweeping there from the Japanese.
Yeah, I saw a bit of a mistake there from Team China. They were trying to take off the center guard and roll to the side. Couldn't quite roll enough. And leaves that stone fairly close to the center line. Japan tries to come around it, but not too much separation here. So a run back is quite possible for the Chinese second player, Yu Xin-rei.
Playing the out turn. A run back is hitting one stone and driving it into a second one, trying to hit the red stone onto the yellow stone. Perfect.
Very good. And has also rolled the shooter out to the side now as a corner guard. So
excellent stone there from Yu Xin-rei.
Probably going to see Japan just try and hit this on the nose. They will be outside the rings, but they'll be on the center line. So that's a bit of a danger stone from China.
Some people call that area right at the top of the house the control zone, and if you've got a stone there are many things you can do with it. So it's definitely a danger rock for the Japanese. They're trying to deal with it and remove it.
Just want to keep this one right there. Rolls a bit to the left, but at least we'll block the path around the corner guard. And it's also nibbling the ring, so you'll see China probably make a play on it.
Yeah, we can see there, just biting that green 12-foot circle. A stone has to be at least touching a part of the circle to be eligible to score in curling. Li Junli trying to remove this stone. Right on the nose, well played. So those are corner guards now that China will be able to use later in the end, although we're getting near to the end of the end. But it's set up pretty well for the Chinese. Japan's going to try and neutralize that by getting one in there first.
I was a bit surprised just with the defensive nature in this game. I thought I'd see Japan maybe playing a hit on that guard, but good to see some aggressive calls here.
Yes, a bit of danger in this shot for the Japanese if they don't execute it well, because China does have last rock. Funayama Onodera on the brushes.
And this is going to wreck on the guard, I think, and maybe even tap this one into the house. So that's a bit of a disastrous result.
Yes, and that was the danger in that shot. If it wasn't executed well, the Chinese with last rock would be in a position to capitalize, and we see here Lucia looking at what her options are. She's got the last rock. So China's lying one. We can see they're partly hidden behind those corner guards, and she's trying to go to the other side of the house. Split the house to lie two, trying to score two in this end.
You could draw around the center guard, but if you draw it a bit too deep, you'll give Japan an opportunity to freeze onto it and just eliminate that stone at the top of the 12-foot. If you don't get deep enough, there's a very easy run back on the center guard. So drawing to the open side here, you're pretty much forcing Japan to make a play on that stone. And you're probably going to score your two. But if Japan wants to draw around the center guard, there might be a chance for three.
So the question now for the Japanese, do you bail out and try to get into damage control? Or do you gamble to try and somehow steal a 1 point? Looks like they're electing the damage control option, which would be to remove the stone in the open at the back of the 12-foot just thrown there by Li Junli. Japanese skip Ayumi Ogasawara in the hack. There's Japanese thirds Sayaka Yoshimura holding the brush.
We'll try and roll towards the center line, but I don't think they can be in behind cover and shot stone.
Nicely executed by the Japanese. They lie one. Just. But the Chinese know if they can just trade shots here for the next two shots, they've got a pretty good chance of scoring there too. China's played one less game than the other countries in the women's draw. They had the bye in the first round. So China's on a 1-win, no-loss record. Japan's on a 1-win, 1-loss record. Lucia with the intern. Brushers are really working it. They want to keep this in the house. Well swept by the Chinese, and China lies two.
Should be a fair chance for Ogasawara here to make the hit and roll though, in behind cover.
Well, that would be a fantastic result if she could pull that off, Sander. We can see there the guard at the top of the picture. So if the Japanese can hit this red stone and roll behind that yellow stone for cover, they could at least force the Chinese to take one and perhaps even steal. But as a teammate of mine, Dan Mustapik, has always said, making a hit and roll when you need to is one of the hardest shots in curling.
But this is one of the scenarios where you really should go for the roll, because even if you roll out here, it's not going to be too much of an easier shot drawing to the house than playing the nose hit for 2 here for China.
There's the hit. There's a little roll. Is it behind the guard? Maybe just a corner. So that was really, really close to a fantastic shot for the Japanese. There we can see they have hidden the corner behind that yellow center guard. So that makes the shot a little bit more difficult for the Chinese skip. But the stone is accessible, and so with a quiet weight shot, perhaps hack weight or board weight, the chance is there for the Chinese to score 2 here on end number 3. Liu Jinli holding her stopwatch, giving her skip a target. Last stone of end number 3. Chinese skip Lucia playing a down weight in turn. Trying to get past the guard, remove the Japanese stone, and perhaps score 2. Got to curl a bit though. Will it hang around? Sweeping to the back of the rings. Will it hang on? Yes, just. So despite the efforts of the Japanese to sweep it out of the rings, China does score 2. Lucia executing the down weight hit and roll. Very nice job. China scores 2, and they take a 3-1 lead after the 3rd end of play. So there we saw the Japanese perhaps getting burned a little bit for getting a bit aggressive with that center guard. And the Chinese score a big 2 end points and take a 3-1 lead. There we see the other games in play here at the Pacific Asia Curling Championships. Day 2 of the championships. We'll be here all week. Glad you're enjoying the live coverage here from the Pacific Asia Curling Championships. We'd love to hear your comments and your feedback. We'll quickly update some of the other games here in this draw. In the women's event, on sheet E, we've got Korea versus Australia. They're in the 3rd end of play. Australia scored 1 in the 2nd end. It's Korea 2, Australia 1 after 2 ends of play. In the men's event, on sheet C, we've got Japan versus Kazakhstan. Japan followed that huge 6th end in the first with a steal of 1 in the second. Japan leads that one 7-0 over Kazakhstan. On sheet B, we've got Australia in the men's event versus Korea. They've traded ones. It's 1-1 after 2 ends of play. And on sheet A, we've got New Zealand versus Chinese Taipei. Chinese Taipei actually stole the 2nd end. They put 1 point on the board, and so they lead this one, playing end number 4, 1-0. But we return to our action in the feature game here on sheet D. China versus Japan. China's leading 3-1.
Did get a question in, by the way, from a woman in Russia asking us who we think are the favorites for this competition.
Boy, having competed in this event in the past, I'm always nervous about naming favorites because there are still people that I know on the ice playing in these teams. But if I had to handicap the women's event, there's been so many team changes. I would have to say the Korean women, the Japanese women, and the Chinese would probably be the 3 favorites, with not too much to pick between all 3 of them. So the women's event's going to be fascinating. On the men's side, the home team Japan is a team that I like a lot. They've got World Championship experience level now. They're a young team. They've got all the shots. I think their chances in this event is very, very good. There's a new look China team in the men's event. I'm going to be looking forward to seeing them play. They're a bit of an unknown for me in terms of whether they can maintain the high standards of Chinese men's teams. Of course, China has won the last, I believe, 6, perhaps 7 consecutive men's championships here in the Pacific Asia Curling Championships. So this new look Chinese men's team has got large shoes to fill in terms of the track record of Chinese curling. Great question, though, and thank you for it.
That's a really nice freeze attempt there. Getting some stones to play at this end.
There we see the Japanese coach's bench. On the left is Coach Fuji Miki. On the right is alternate Anna Omiya. Fuji Miki is actually from Canada and has quite an impressive record as a player himself. Was a former Canadian mixed curling champion.
Doesn't quite get the corner guard off, but plan B, rolls to a center.
It's definitely a very interesting result, and that makes this end a little bit mouth-watering. We've got a center guard, we've got 3 stones near or behind it. Japan playing the yellow stones has got the hammer here in the end number 4, but the Chinese have got a little something going. Japan's going to have to deal with some of these red stones. We saw skip Ogasawara tap her hip. That means that she's looking for board weight to be played by her second stone, Kaho Onadara. Trying to promote her own stone onto the red Chinese stone. There's the bump. Nice result. Well played. There's Kaho Onadara. So now it's a bit of a dilemma for Lu Jinjia. Even though her red stone is shot, there we see from our overhead that yellow Japanese stone is frozen directly in front of it. Very easy to promote, very easy to remove that shot rock. So that shot rock's in some danger. She'll have to do something about this. She can lock to guard, or she could play some kind of a bump, move them around. But what she can't do is ignore it. Great shot there of the broom being held for the shooter. Out turn draw attempt. Second stone's being played here on the 4th end. China 3, Japan 1. Small bump here just to try and get some separation. Not a bad result, but I'd have to say, Sander, that the yellow Japanese stone is still accessible and playable. You see Japanese skip Ogasawara holding her brush there just to ask her player how much of the stone she can actually see. So China's lying 1, Japan's second stone, the yellow stone directly in front of the shot rock. Some options here for Team Japan. They've got the hammer here in end number 4. Let's see what they do. Looks like board weight again.
I think they're just trying to tap this red stone back and maybe roll on top of their own yellow. Trying to line them up, all 3. Just a soft weight. Trying to get fairly close to the guard here.
Sweepers are really working it. They're worried about the line.
It's looking pretty good. Just want to stay right on top. That's a perfect shot.
Well held by the sweepers, and the Japanese now are stacking them up. China's still lying 1, but we can see those 2 Japanese stones directly in front. Here's the replay. Get the contact, a little roll right in front of her own shot. So even though China's lying 1, the Japanese are lurking with intent. They're lying 2nd, 3rd, and 4th shot, and they're setting up for a potential big end if there's a Chinese mistake anywhere along the way.
So Team China not wanting to touch that situation along the center line. Just going to remove this one out in the wing, not complicate things. Just going to play the ball back to Team Japan and say, well, you're going to have to move our shot.
looking for the roll, and look at this. Right behind cover. Fantastic hit and roll. So it's going to be really interesting to see the angles here. Let's look at our replay. They're trying to remove the Japanese shot. They do, and look at the roll. They're trying to roll behind cover. Right to the back of the button. China's lying 2. But it'll be interesting from our overhead shot. Let's look at the angles. It's possible here for a raised double takeout. So if Japan can hit their own yellow stone at the top of the rings, they could perhaps drive their own stone back onto the Chinese red and kill 2, which might leave Japan lying 3 if they execute it perfectly.
Only problem is they might be lying 3, but they might be all grouped together and might leave a double or treble on for Team China. We'll see.
That's true, Sander, but I think at this point Japan would say that's a small price to pay. They'd love to get rid of these Chinese stones. Here's the attempt. 1, 2,
there we go.
Double takeout. Great shot there from Sayaka Yoshimura. Let's look at the contact point. 1 2, bang. 2 red rocks go flying out of the rings, and the shooter rolls over to the side of the 12-foot. Japan's lying 2. Great outcome there for Japan. And a bit of a pick-me-up here. They've got great local support. The Japanese fans here loved that shot.
I think there's a triple on here, but the problem is if you run the first yellow back onto the second, it might spill out and catch that red stone on the side. So they're going to play some control here, I think. And just try to get to the nose, remove 1 yellow and sit on top of the other.
Pressure's working this one hard. Straight back. Removing 1 of the Japanese stones, but Japan is still lying 1. China's lying 2nd and 3rd shot. Japan lying 4th shot. Japan with the hammer here. Last rock on end number 4. Trailing in this match 3-1. So Japan is really looking to get back on level terms. They'd love to score 2. They've got a good opportunity here if they can make a nice come around and perhaps hide a second one. Here's our Japanese skip, Ayumi Ogasawara, asking her young 3rd player, Sayaka Yoshimura, to make an in-turn draw.
The problem for China with that last shot is they didn't quite get the stones lined up, so they're slightly overlapped. It's going to be really hard to use that red stone at the top of the 12-foot. So, as you say, good chance for Japan to come around there and put some pressure on the Chinese.
Yeah, the sweepers have got some work to do. She may be a bit light. And that rock's over curling, so that's a bit of an error from the Japanese, an opportunity lost. They were trying to draw around those guards into the 4-foot. And perhaps maybe a few fewer stones being played on that side of the sheet, but regardless, a bit of a mistake there for the Japanese, unfortunately. But an opportunity here for the Chinese to really have a go themselves.
Now, the sweeper's jobs here is to have maybe timed that stone just thrown by Japan, and with that maybe able to tell Lucia what time she played, and that way knowing if it's a bit slower on this side or not. So always kind of have to keep track of rocks coming down, not only just your own but the opponents as well. So should have a fair grasp of the ice down here.
So here is Lucia. In-turn draw attempt. Play here on end 4.
Waiting for the curl so far. Needing to bend in.
They'd love to hide behind that center guard if they can. Sliding just to the back of the 4-foot. I would say hiding maybe a corner, definitely not fully buried, so a pretty good attempt, but not quite as good as they would have liked. Oh, that's pretty well hidden there. We can see in our long shot the red Japanese or Chinese shot rock almost fully behind those center guards, so Japan will have to play quite quiet wait to get at it. And we can see there Sayaka Yoshimura patting her brush in front of that red stone, so it might just be a straight out freeze. Freeze would be the Japanese trying to throw their stone directly in front of the Chinese stone. Funayama, Onodera on the brushes. They've got the responsibility to communicate the weight. Will it curl enough? Just a little shy of curling enough. Hard to tell from this overhead. Players are taking quite a close look at it. China may still be lying one, but it's very close.
I think the shot's the same though. Either way, who's lying shot, just going to come down in and top the yellow. If they can, maybe nudge it an inch just to be sure they are lying to it.
And if they were able to do that, Sander, it would put huge pressure on the Japanese with their last rock. So this Japanese women's team, definitely one of the pre-tournament favorites, but they're definitely not having it all their own way. They're had a difficult loss against Korea yesterday, and now this Chinese team is also giving them everything they can handle. Chinese skip Lucia playing the intern. Wang Rai, Yu Xinrai on the brushes. Great line. I don't know if she nudged the yellow one, but she's definitely lying one.
Yeah, left that one too long. Should have swept that one. Straightened out the line and nudged off the yellow one instead. Comes directly onto the red stone, it seemed. But still going to be a really tough shot for Japan to score though. But it would have been really nice to be sitting 2 there for Team China.
I agree, Sander. We can see there from the overhead that China at the back of the button is lying 1. They would have been able to nudge that Japanese shot rock. They might have been lying 2, but might have. In this situation or history, and at this point, what the Chinese do know is that they've made it very difficult for Japan even to score. Perfectly guarded, so no opportunity for the Chinese to throw any kind of weight at it. And we can see from the brush position here, it looks like Ayumi Ogasawara is just going to attempt, no, now the shot is being changed. She is going to follow that one down.
Or she may be playing the hit and roll off the wing.
Well, she may do. Let's see what kind of
Maybe
weight
not.
she has coming out of the hack.
Although I have seen Japanese skip Yoshimura often put the broom in front of stones if they're sort of in the weight. So that's still probably a draw here coming down.
So here's the last stone of end number 4. Japan trying to save the end with their last rock. They're facing 1. Difficult shot here for Ayumi Ogasawara. Have to get really tight to that guard. It has to curl a lot for them to get shot. Will it curl enough?
Looking pretty close.
Oh, it looks like just made. Nice shot there from Ayumi Ogasawara. Players are looking at it closely, but it looks to me like Japan have scored their 1. Players are kicking off the stones, so they agree. So once again, Ayumi Ogasawara pulls her team out of the fire with a great last shot. So there we see after end number 4, Japan scores 1. They're still in this game. China 3, Japan 2. The heat was really on the Japanese there, but great last shot. So let's take this opportunity to update some of the action in the other games going here in day 2 of the Pacific Asia Curling Championships. In the women's event, we have on sheet E, Korea playing Australia. Korea scored 2 on the third end, so that gives them a 4-1 lead over Team Australia. In the men's event on sheet C, the Japanese got off to an amazing start with a 6 in the first end. That amazing start is just continuing on and on. They've scored a 3, or they've stolen a 3 in the third end. They lead Kazakhstan 10-0. On sheet B, we've got Australia against Korea in the men's event. Tight game there, but the Koreans scored a big 2 in the third end. They take a 3-1 lead over Australia into the fourth end of play. And finally, our 5th game here on the second day is a men's game, New Zealand versus Chinese Taipei. Chinese Taipei have really done it all without the hammer. They stole one in the second end, and they've stolen another single point on the fourth end. And so Chinese Taipei leads that one 2-0. They're playing end number 5. But we return to the action here in end number 5 of our feature match. In the women's event, double round robin here at the Pacific Asia Curling Championships. China's leading 3-2. They take the hammer here on end number 5. Any surprises for you, Sander, in these first few ends of play?
Not really. It's been pretty tight so far, but the Chinese team really had a grip on the Japanese there in the previous end, and if I were to pick a favorite before the game, I'd probably pick Japan, just because I don't know too much about these Chinese girls, but everything can change. Momentum has a tendency to go between teams more than once over a game, so I think it's still hard to pick a winner, even if we're in the 5th end. China with a clear advantage, though, 1 point up on Japan with the last on advantage, so it's going to be interesting to see if they can manage to pull it off. But I think Ogasawa's experience is going to really help Japan out in this situation. And her shot making, surely.
Indeed. Well, they've got veteran experience. They've certainly seen large pressure situations many times over their career, and we can see them applying some of that experience now. Come around attempt there by Yumi Funayama. Just slightly takes the Chinese shot rock. Nice attempt there, but Japan's lying 1. So they're mixing it up, the Japanese. They don't have last rock, but they did elect the center guard. They've put one up there, and now the play's moving behind it. There's Chinese lead Wang Rei.
Yeah, just going to try and catch a piece of the yellow and check to the wing. Looking pretty close. And that is a great shot.
Nice control weight there from Rei.
So Japan on the back foot already here. 2 reds in a house, going to try and hit the open one and roll back. The only problem is that center guard's not really in the best spot. It's fairly far away from the house. So even if you get in behind the guard, China will have a possibility to come around and tap it out.
Will the stone stay? Lucia is allowed to sweep that stone behind the tee line, and she sweeps it out of the rings. Onodera there, looking at her result, knows that she would have liked to stay in the rings with that roll. So even though they've got the last rock, Sander, a bit of a conservative play here from Team China, liking to draw the open side as opposed to using that corner guard. Not really a corner guard, it's just off the center line.
I don't mind this call, though.
Hard work from the brushers.
Again, since the center guard so far up, it's not going to be really easy to utilize for Japan. So drawing the wing here, it's just really splitting the rings and not complicating things along the center line. But bit of a, I was just going to say, a bit of a turnaround in tactics. I thought they were going to draw here with the ice being taken, but they're playing the out turn hit and roll.
Hard work from the Japanese brushes trying to hold the line. On the nose, but second shot.
The only good thing is that move that stone further up in the house now, and if China plays the nose hit, it's going to be fairly high, so it's going to make the hit and roll easier.
No wasted time at all from the Chinese. They pull the trigger quickly with Yushin Rei, trying to remove that stone.
It's always a good trait for a front-end player to be quick in the hack. It saves you some time over the course of a game.
Absolutely right, Sander, and that's where practice and preparation makes a huge difference. You can waste an awful lot of time mucking about in the hack, getting ready for a shot. 2 or 3 seconds here, 2 or 3 seconds there, and all of a sudden it's 2 or 3 minutes off your time clock. So players being ready to play and playing quickly without rushing things can be a real benefit to the team. Sayaka Yoshimura trying to remove that Chinese stone. They'd love to get a bit of a roll behind that guard if they can. There's the hit, there's the roll towards the center line. Right to the button, but not quite behind the guard. Very good attempt, though. Asking her skip about the weight. She thought the weight was up a bit, but no, her skip said it was fine. Chinese third, Wujin Li. Good opportunity here for Team China. They have the hammer in end number 4. They lead 3-2. There's the hit. Looking for a bit of a roll to the wing, but pretty much on the nose.
This is probably going to be the easiest hit and roll attempt Japan's faced so far in this end. Not going to have to roll very far.
It's definitely a bit of a get out of jail opportunity here for the Japanese if they can make the hit and small roll behind cover. Great shot here from ice level as the stone comes into the house. There's the hit. Tiny roll, but not enough, unfortunately, and that stone is still out in the open. Japanese third, Yoshimura making her way down to the head. China here with an opportunity for a hit and roll of their own. In turn for Wujin Li. China would love to hit and roll behind the guard. Hard work from the brushers. And perhaps overswept Sander. Maybe they were just trying to get that outside roll. So both teams have had opportunities for little hit and rolls to get behind that guard, but neither have been able to do it. Now it's the turn of the Japanese to have another try. We can see Sayaka Yoshimura patting her hip. That means she's telling her front end players that they're going to try and play about board weight on this. That's throwing the rock just hard enough to hit the boards at the far end. So it's not a full weight takeout shot.
Problem now though with the stone she's hitting being in the top of the 8, she's going to roll very close to that other red stone, and even if she rolls in behind the guard, it's going to be a really easy run back on that red stone at the top of the 12. She might want to overroll this actually and even pop out a bit on the left hand side as we see it.
There's the hit, here's the roll. Where does it go?
That is
half behind that red one, so slightly into the open. So the hit and roll was made, and it's going to be interesting to see what kind of shot that China actually has. So there was a great angle. We can look at this now. So there's really no opportunity for China to run their red directly back on the yellow. So that means they're going to have to make a play on the yellow rock directly. The question will be, can they hit enough of the stone and stay in the rings themselves for second shot?
It was a very good attempt. As I said, if she was directly in behind the centre guard, it'd be very easy to just hit their own red onto the yellow. They can't do that now, but she popped out a bit too much in the open. Just a quarter stone too far of a roll. So should be accessible here.
Real precision shot here for the Chinese. The weight has to be perfect because they need to get enough of the stone to remove it, but they need to hang around.
This is a typical shot where you might safe it a little bit, just overthrow it a touch and just make sure you get contact with the yellow rather than over curling and catching your own shot here.
Yishin Rei, Wang Rei on the brushes, really sweeping it. They want to control the line. Where is it going to contact? Great shot from China.
Yeah, really went for it. That's a superb result.
So China now lies 2. Great shot there from Lucy Ya, receiving congratulations from her teammate. Job's not done yet, though. Still 2 stones to come here on end number 5. But China has got it set up pretty nicely to try and get their deuce. Japanese skip Ayumi Ogasawara preparing to throw her final stone here on the 5th end. She'll be looking to remove that red Chinese stone and perhaps roll behind the guard herself. Tough shot. She'll have to roll about 5 feet to get behind cover. In turn. Funayama Onodera on the brushes. Here's the hit. Where's it going to roll? Here's the roll. Rolls across the rings and out the other side. So it's definitely not behind cover. You can see a little bit of frustration there from Ayumi. That was really close to a fantastic shot. Didn't curl quite enough to get the perfect roll. So now here's an open hit for China for 2. Great opportunity for China to go into the 5th end break with a good lead. Chinese skip, Lucia. Final stone of end number 5. Trying for the nose hit. Perfectly executed, and China converts. They score 2. High fives all around for the Chinese. That was a big 2 end. And China goes into the 5th end break with a 5-2 lead. We hope you're enjoying the live coverage here from the Pacific Asia Curling Championships. We're going to take a short break and we will be right back.
So after 2 ends, 1 point each for China and Japan. This is the third end. Chinese skip just keeping the shooter there for a score of 2.
In the fourth end, we saw this situation here for Sayaka Yoshimura. Fantastic raise double takeout, leave the Japanese line 2.
And then a bit of pressure on the Japanese skip, Ogasawara, having to draw the edge of the button to score 1, and does that perfectly. Really nice high pressure shot, executed well. But China still in the lead 3-2 after 4 ends.
And then on end number 5, we saw Lucy Ya, China holding the hammer, nose hit. Well done. China scores 2, and they carry that 5-2 lead here into the 6th end of play. You're watching live coverage from the Pacific Asia Curling Championships. Day 2 of the competition. We're in the round robin phase. Men's event and a women's event being played simultaneously. 5 countries competing in the women's event, so they're playing a double round robin. That means they'll play each of their opponents twice. China is carrying a 1-win, no-loss record into this game. Japan is carrying a 1-win, 1-loss record into this game. Japan with a victory yesterday over Australia and a loss to Korea. The Chinese team with a win over New Zealand. So even though this is early in the tournament, a bit of a pressure on this Japanese team. This team is enormously popular here in Japan. They have a big following. They're very popular, very well known right across the country, mainly because of their performance at Olympic Games. Ayumi and Yumi from the Japanese team have participated in 3 Olympics. But a track record is not that helpful. You still have to go on the ice and win games. And the Japanese here are really being challenged by this high-quality field here at the Pacific Asia Curling Championships. Because it's a double round robin, a second loss for the Japanese wouldn't eliminate them from playoff play by any means, but you still want to get off to a good start in the week. And they'll definitely be looking for a win as opposed to a loss. Every team does, of course. Chinese team, it's a new team from China. A couple of players with international experience from Bin Yuang's team. A couple of new players. I had a word with both of the coaches before the teams. Both teams have been playing events on the Canadian Curling Tour, so they've been over in Canada against high-quality competition. Both teams working really, really hard to prepare for this event in particular.
They did play each other once, actually, in Canada.
I believe so.
And even though Ogasawara started off with a steal of 2 in the second end, it was Lucia that turned it around with a steal of 1 in the 8th end to win 6 shots to 5.
So we spoke earlier about the level of dedication now that's being shown at the elite level in international curling. Quite commonplace now for Pacific Asia teams to go to either North America or to Europe to compete at the top level of competition. And that means quite often they'll play each other in places like Canada and in Europe. So a big test of mettle here for the Japanese. They have last rock here on end number 6. They're down 3. Trying to make something happen. Kaho Onodera. Stopping just short of the rings, a useful corner guard to her stone in the back of the 12-foot. Lucia senses the danger immediately, and she's asking for that stone to be removed. Well, it removes the Japanese stone but leaves her own stone there as a possible user corner guard, but pretty good result there for China, removing the Japanese shooter as well as the guard. Here's the replay. We can see the yellow Japanese stone removing the other shot. Kaho Onodera with the outturn.
Looking to freeze the top red now in the forfeit. And you might see China then try and blast the yellow off it, and then opening up the centre of the house, maybe leaving a draw at the corner guard for Team Japan. It's a pretty good attempt.
Nice shot there from Kaho Onodera. Both teams have an opportunity at the fifth end breaks to confer with their coaches and build a basic mini game plan for the last 5 ends of the game. So I have no doubt that Team China would be saying, we're 3 points up. Let's try to keep it quite conservative when Japan's got the hammer. Japan, on the other hand, they'd be saying, we've got 3 points to make up. We're going to have to probably take more risks than we normally would. Well, that's cleaning house, Sander.
Yep.
Fantastic shot there.
But that was Japan's plan all along. Playing the freeze, knowing they would have to remove their own reds in the process, and now leaving the draw around the corner guard with no risk, no other stones in the house.
So even though the Chinese removed their own stones, the reason I like that shot so much is that there's nothing for the Japanese to use themselves. China's mission on this end is to force Japan to take one. Funayama and Onodera on the brushes. Nicely swept into the back of the 8-foot. We'll quickly update some of our other games here on day 2 at the Pacific Asia Curling Championships. In the women's event on Sheet E, it's Korea versus Australia. Korea scored a big 2. They stole 2 actually on end number 5 against Kim Forge's Australian team. So Korea leads that one 6-1 after the 5th end. In the men's event on Sheet C, Japan versus Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan is on the board. They've scored a point in the 4th end, but they trail 10-1. On Sheet B in the men's event, it's Australia versus Korea. Korea stole a single point on end number 4, so they lead that one against Australia 4-1. And on Sheet A, New Zealand versus Chinese Taipei. The 5th end was blanked by New Zealand, so they carry the hammer into end number 6, but they trail. Chinese Taipei is leading that one 2-0. Back here on Sheet D, our feature match. China versus Japan in the women's event. Here's Japanese third Sayaka Yoshimura. So after that nice come around, it pays off for the Japanese, and they've got their chance to get there too. Trying to split the house here. Nicely done.
And now Lucia is going to try and make the hit and roll towards the other yellow, try and gather them and try and set up for a double takeout with her last shot.
Sometimes it's all about the angles in curling. The contact point. There we can see from the overhead shot. These stones are slightly staggered, so you'd have to throw a missile to make a double takeout, but as Sander said, you could make the hit and roll and bring them closer together. Here is Lucia throwing the in-turn. There's the hit, big roll across the house. Where's it going to go? Angle was a bit steep for the double, and she goes behind the Japanese stone into the back of the 12-foot and looks like out of the rings. So good opportunity here for Japan. They really need a deuce in this end to get back in this game. And they have a great opportunity here to do just that. Japanese skip Ayumi Ogasawara looking to play an out-turn draw, split the house and lie 2. Yumi Funuyama, Kaho Onodera on the brushes. They want to get this stone to the tee line. We see Yoshimura coming out to join them. This might be a bit light. Really working it, but I don't think they're going to reach the ring center.
Yeah, with all the key shots she's been making today and yesterday, you'd think she would have been able to pull off a simple draw to the wing.
Very disappointing result there for Japan. They had a great opportunity here to score a 2 and get back in the game, but that seems to be gone now. China has an open hit to force Japan to either blank or at best take one. You see conferring with her players about that piece of the ice and the weight. Wondering about whether perhaps to play the in-turn as opposed to the out-turn. They're worrying a little bit about that red rock behind the shot rock. There is a small risk that they could jam it. Out-turn hit. There's the hit, and there is the jam. So that's what we were just mentioning. It's the light danger for the Chinese. So that Japanese stone is biting at the back of the 12-foot. So a very small opportunity here for Japan to still score their second point. You can see Ogasawara and Yoshimura conferring. They'll have to be very precise. We can see there now Japanese Yellowstone at the back of the rings just biting the 12-foot. If Ayumi can hit that red Chinese stone on the outside with quiet weight, keep her stone in the rings and push it past her own shot, she might still get her second point. Big shot here for Japan.
Seemed quite unnecessary to jam it there. Could have just peeled it off. But it's good for the game. If Japan can pick up 2 here. Close it up.
Sweepers are really on it. They're worried about the line. They can't jam it themselves. They have to hit the outside of the stone to get their second point. Can they hold the line? No, they jam themselves. So it's 1 point for Japan instead of 2. Big chance there for Japan, but they couldn't convert it. They do score 1. There we see after end number 6. China 5, Japan 3. But the Japanese team know they had a little window there to get themselves closer into the game, and they couldn't quite pull it off.
Meanwhile, in the men's draw, Australia picks up 2 points in the 5th end after Korean skip just missed a very simple 3-foot run back. Got a bit of a free deuce there to close it up. Korea still leading though, 4 shots to 3. Looks like Scott Becker of New Zealand is drawing for 1 here on the 5th end against Chinese Taipei. Taipei, as we said, stole points in the 2nd and 4th end, leading the game 2 shots to nothing. So far, sweepers backing off it. And he's going to slip to the back, and that's another steal for Chinese Taipei. By the looks of it, as they head into the 5th end break. Meanwhile, our 7th end here has kicked off, and we're going to see a center guard from Team Japan, now trailing by 2 points.
Yes, the Japanese, having missed that opportunity to close the game up by only scoring 1 instead of 2. Without last rock, they really have to go for it now. They'll be throwing center guards. They have to steal at least 1 or 2 ends to have a chance of winning this game from here.
Now we saw this tactic drawing to the wing early in the game. Makes a bit more sense now with the 2-point lead to draw to the side. It's a bit of a defensive call. Very often the call you'll see teams make if you want to blank ends, and don't think Team China would mind blanking the 7th end, retaining hammer for the 8th and even end. Basically, if they score now, they'll allow Japan to have last on advantage twice. But if they blank this end, they themselves more than likely will have hammer for the 8th and 10th end, just allowing Japan to have last on once. So big advantage being able to blank the end if they can. And but Japan will try to do the opposite, obviously, and they'll put up the double center guards here, really taking advantage of the free guard zone. China not still allowed to remove any of the guards.
Yeah, great job there from Japanese lead Yumi Funayama, stacking those 2 guards in the free guard zone. Great separation between them, so even though China does have last rock here on end number 7, Japan is really going all out for the steal, and they've got a great start to the end for them.
Drawing around here. Don't want to be too deep with this one, and although it looks pretty right on the panda, is about 2 or 3 feet too deep. It's going to allow Japan to come on down and lock one on there. Might even get shot stone here. That's going to be problematic for Team China.
Yes, for those fans of curling who follow the mixed doubles discipline, this is almost a mixed doubles situation, trying to freeze right on top of that stone at the back of the pin. We do have some players in this tournament with international mixed doubles experience, Sander. Yushin Rai from the Chinese team has played at the World Mixed Doubles Championship. And look at this. Nice stone from Japan.
Yeah, that was an important shot, because that might just be the stone that Japan has to guard all the way through the end now, with China taking off the center guards.
So now the free guard zone phase of the end is over, so China can hammer those front guards.
Oh, very close to making the double there.
That was a great attempt from Yushin Rai.
I think she's just going for the single peel here.
She just grazed by the second one, though, didn't she?
I wonder if could have been tempted to draw one more in there. And you probably see China pick off the center guard again, and then you could guard 2 yellows in there. But I wonder if she's chosen to throw another guard.
No, as Sander Rolvik said, you know, the opportunities for them might be to try and guard the whole end out and defend that 1 stone on the pin. Another play might be to throw a second one around it, but it does look like the guard is the shot.
I think they actually were drawing there. By the looks of it, Karuizawa was pointing to the top of the 4, but that was just a badly thrown stone, and it was over curling early. So they just left it to wreck on their guard. Not ideal. Good chance for China now to take off both these yellows and really open things up.
Out-turn peel attempt from the Chinese. Trying to remove both yellow guard stones. There's one, but it's jam. Nice try. But the center guard remains for Japan, so they've still got a little something going here on the 7th end. Yu Shin-rei there on the attempted double clear. And if you're playing the second position in curling, Sander, that big weight peel shot is something that you're often asked for late in the game if your team has a lead.
Yeah, second player on the team is usually one that throws the hardest. But, you know, in modern curling, you really need to have all the tools in your pocket. So as we saw Onodera throwing that freeze onto the pin there, such an important shot for this end if they're looking to steal. This time for sure throwing a guard, but again just maybe 4 feet too deep and not really catching the line here, allowing China an angle to maybe take off both the yellows without the risk of leaving their own as a guard.
So now Chinese third Liu Jinli has a chance to make the double peel. Big weight. Wow, that certainly rearranged the granite.
Yeah.
Doesn't double clear the guards, leaves a Japanese stone biting the front button. So again, very close here on the replay. We see the contact point misses the front guard. So again, a millimeter from a fantastic shot, but the result for Japan, they still got one in the top of the button. A wry smile there from Liu Jinli. She knows how close that was to a perfect double peel, but Japan has still got a chance for a steal.
Well, only plus of China is the backing is gone, but now they have all these two red corner guards really blocking the way to the forefoot, so might be hard for Liu Xia to bail out in this end, scoring one. All the paths are just kind of blocked off here.
Japan trying to defend that stone in the button area. Playing another guard.
Got to make sure to have some separation this time. Don't want to drive this one too far.
Nice shot there from Japan.
Still a little bit too tight to the yellow one for my liking.
And big smiles from the Japanese fans. Their team's trailing, but they see they've got a little something going here on end number 7.
So double peel slash attempt,
yep,
as you might say.
Liu Jinli, she could potentially remove all 3 Japanese stones depending on the angles.
Yeah, run the first yellow across the face of the second one and maybe spill that one back down onto the shot stone.
There's one.
Not quite.
So removing one of the center guards, but Japan still has that center guard in the front. Liu Jinli, nice attempt there on the double clear, but she just removes one of the guards. And we got a great shot in our long shot. You can see the Japanese shot rock just a corner behind that center guard. Certainly not enough to protect it.
And this time it looks like we'll go for the draw here. Just get half tucked in behind the center guard.
So again, here's a chance for Ayumi Ogasawara to really compensate. She made a bit of an error there in the last end with her chance to convert for a 2 when she came up short on a draw. Big chance here for her to perhaps come around and have a second shot, but after talking to her teammate, she's going to come down and have a word with Sayaka Yoshimura and discuss their options.
Yeah, maybe didn't like the view from the hack there with the corner guard being slightly in the way. Sometimes though, we have a bit more space than you might think. And I don't think that corner guard is going to be in the way for the draw. But it looks really tight from the hack.
Now the chance would be there, if we can see on this long shot. The first shot that they were considering was an out-turn draw, right on top of their own shot rock, half around, trying to Christmas tree it. Not much room for error there, and it looks like they're electing a little more conservative play and playing an in-turn, looks like a guard.
Yeah, pretty much going to replace the guard they just displayed with their previous shot, Yoshimura. So this whole end started with some good lead play from Japan. A bit of an error from Wang Rei, the Chinese lead, slipping too deep on her second shot, and then Japanese second player Kaho Onodera with a really nice freeze, and then haven't really been able to clear things up, the Chinese. No double peels in this end. So important for either the second or the third player to make a double peel.
See a really nice guard there from Ogasawara. Great separation between the two center guards now. So no realistic chance of a double clear. But it is long enough that the Chinese are thinking, boy, can we squeak by that long guard and maybe make a play at the shooter? Looks like they're going to give it a go, Sander. Judging by where we've got the brush there from Liu Jin Lee. Looks to me like Lucia might be trying perhaps a back line weight, back 8-foot weight bump shot. Hard to tell.
I think you're right, Hans. Stone is perfectly covered in behind the guard, but that first yellow we see is so far up. There's such a long distance between those stones, so you have a long way to curl when you pass it. So it should be a good chance to at least move it off the button. Just push it back at least, maybe allow some more room for a last shot here, Lucia.
Line and weight are critical on this shot.
Throwing a bit more than back line, more like a hack weight, but I think she was tight on the broom because that really overcurled. At least does open it up a wee bit. And now the question is, will Ogasawara play the more risky shot and come into the house and try and steal two, or you throw the same guard again, try to secure your one?
Well, Japan is down two. If they were able to steal one, they'd be trailing by one. So one approach to this would be safety first and just protect the one. But the way that they are angled, it's a great opportunity for Ogasawara to be a bit more aggressive, try to tuck another one in there and really put the heat on the Chinese and perhaps tie this game up.
I think they have chosen to play the draw, and totally agree. You really need to take a few risks here. Only stealing the one is not, it's not very good still. You're going to be trailing by one in the 8th end without hammer. So you really need to take your chances while you have them. On the corner guard still, I think, just waiting for this one to curl. Past it now. It's all about weight then.
Will it curl enough to hide behind that center guard? Here it comes.
This is looking really good.
That's a fantastic shot from Ayumi Ogasawara. Japan lies two.
Yeah. See, there was no problem with the corner guard there.
There you see how good that shot was. It's half hidden behind the center guard and protecting the shot rock. Very difficult for China now to score one.
Yeah.
So after the disappointment of coming up short with a draw in the last end, veteran skip Ayumi Ogasawara delivers in a real pressure situation, making a fantastic come around on that center guard. Japan line two. Sander, I don't think you could carry it down and put it in a better place than where it's come to rest.
It's just it's perfect execution. And I don't think there's a realistic way of scoring for Lucia here. I think the best you can do is just maybe pick off that shot rock and give up one. It's still not going to be too bad. She will be one up with hammer in the 8th end, so I think you'll be happy to just pick off one of the yellows. Taking a lot of ice though, so playing a controlled weight still. Trying to utilize her sweepers. You might see some teams just throw a hard one down here and try and pick off a chunk of the yellow. So I'm not sure if she's feeling optimistic about sticking the shooter here, but it really seems hard. But last stone of the 7th end, Chinese skip Lucia looking to at least remove a yellow. looking pretty good. And there's no chance of sticking around with the red one there. It's going to be a steal one for Team Japan. Clawing their way back. But China still leading the game 5-4 after 7 ends.
An important steal for Team Japan, though, Sander. They really needed that to stay in the game. Advantage still slightly here to Team China. They've got the hammer going into end number 8, but a crucial steal there for Japan. But a nice shot there from Lucy Yan to minimize the damage. Day 2 here, you're watching live coverage from the Pacific Asia Curling Championships here in Karuizawa, Japan, at the magnificent Ice Park Curling Hall. We'll quickly update some of the other scores in this draw. In the women's event on Sheet E, it's Korea versus Australia. Australia scored 1 in the 6th, but they trail. Korea leading that one 6-2. On Sheet C in the men's event, it's Japan versus Kazakhstan. After 6 ends of play, Kazakhstan have scored 1 in the 6th, but they trail. Japan's leading that one 12-2. Tight game on Sheet B between Korea and Australia. Australia rather scored 2 on the 5th end. Korea leads that one 4-3. And on Sheet A, Chinese Taipei leading New Zealand 3-0. So this is the first draw for the men. The men's competition and the women's competition are being played simultaneously. A lot at stake here at the Pacific Asia Curling Championships. These teams are playing to qualify for the World Curling Championships later this year. And the way that countries qualify themselves in for a spot in the Winter Olympics is through performance at World Championship level. So a lot to play for every team here. Play underway in the 8th end. China with the last rock. Japan going to the attack again without the hammer by throwing a center guard. An attempted come around there from the Chinese lead, Wang Rei. Ticks that center guard. And again, Japan's got a little something going here, Sander, early in the end.
Yep, a few guards in play. Just looking for a good draw in behind here now. Could have played another center guard if they wanted to. They did do so in the previous end.
Bit of discussion between the players, Sander, and I think they might have elected to do just that. Let's just see what Yumi Fumiyama does on this stone.
She did point one finger up in the air. That could indicate number 1 as in
long guard.
A long guard. A lot of teams do divide the playing area into 10 zones, where 1 would be just about over the hog line, 2 would be halfway guard, 3 very close to the house, and the house would be between 4 and 10.
So great execution there from Japanese lead Yumi Fumiyama, putting that long guard in place. There's Yumi acknowledging the congratulations of her skip. Well played.
Again, just taking advantage of the free guard zone. Yeah. Could have drawn, but if you don't make the draw perfect, if you're ever in a half open, China can now hit that stone and you're left with just the 1 guard. Now you do have some stones in play, and as we saw in the previous end, China are not too good with the double peels. So there's a good chance this might be a bit of a clutter for the Chinese. But this is a really good draw. A lot better than in the 7th end.
Nice stone there from Wang Rei. She crashed on her first draw come around attempt, but that second one is a beauty. Almost fully buried behind that center guard. China does have last rock here on the 8th, leading this one 5-4.
Yeah, remember in the last 10 she drew to the wing with her first one, and then around the 2 center guards with her second, slipping behind the tee line, allowing Onodera to freeze. This time she hasn't done that. She's kept it in front of the tee line. Just right before the forefoot. Perfect positioning. It's going to make this shot a lot harder for Onodera.
Flirting with the guard, crashing the guard.
Well, if you're going to miss it one way, you're better off missing it short than throwing it through.
That's a very good point, Sander. Japan is still having to load this up to try and steal, so Rocks in play for Japan is still a good thing, but they definitely would have preferred that one to get past the guard and into the rings. Now the free guard zone phase of the end is over, so China can blast away. Chinese second Yu Xin Rei trying to clear some of those yellow center guards. There's one. Little tick, my goodness.
Bit of a pinball machine action there.
Yeah, so some gentle repositioning of the stones at pace. The net result, China is still lying one. Japan's Karuizawa won't mind that. She's still got a yellow center guard of her own to use. Taking a lot of ice here, Sander.
Sometimes when you come out wide, there might be a little bit of frost since they haven't played too much out there, and sometimes the stone will catch some extra curl out in the frost. Doesn't seem like the line's the problem here. Actually, rather over curling, if anything.
So sliding to the back of the forefoot.
Yeah, but I think it's visible through the gap of the yellow guards. It should be. Should see about half of it.
So that was a case of a stone being almost too good. Made the come around, but popped out the other side. You mentioned frost at breakfast this morning. Had a word with head ice technician Joe Fritz and asking Joe about this fantastic building and the ice plant and the humidity. He said the building ventilation and the ice plant automatic controls are amazing. The humidity inside the rink here is about 70%. So frost really shouldn't be an issue.
No, there's a tiny bit, but it's swept away quite quickly after practice sessions in the first couple of ends, so I don't think that's a major problem. It has been raining a lot in the last few days.
Karuizawa is known as a summer resort here in Japan. It's about 1 hour on the bullet train, the Shinkansen, from Tokyo. Quite a popular vacation spot for the Japanese. It's a summer and a winter resort. In the summertime, you get away from the heat of Tokyo, and in the wintertime, you can come here and ski. Well, those that can ski can come here and ski. I would come here and fall down, I think, but some might ski. So a bit of pressure here on Japan. China's got the hammer. Japan's got a center guard, but they're looking at two Chinese counters. Onodera. Funayama sweeping that stone into the rings. So that's a bit helpful for the Japanese. They've at least counted out the second shot for China. But China is still lying one. Lucia confirming with her teammates. So after some discussion, it looks like a tight guard, maybe half around the yellow corner guard is the shot. That says to me, Sander, that they'd be quite happy to score one here.
Yeah, I'd be quite happy to score one here. 2-point lead coming into the 9th end. And then you try and force Japan to take a one. Even if you give away two, you'll have the advantage of the last stone in the 10th end. So
Lu Jin Li, the Chinese third, being asked to make this guard.
So there's a bit of a change in tactics here too. So now they're not peeling away stones anymore. But still 3 Japanese stones to come. It could prove problematic.
So that guard slightly over curling and ticking the guard, but still providing cover. forcing Japan way out to the left side here on the in-turn side of the sheet. In-turn for the right-handers. No left-handers in this game. Here's Japanese third Sayaka Yoshimura.
This is not really an easy draw. Try and come around that red stone there. Just snag a piece of the forefoot. Again, just coming out a bit wide. Might be just a tad slow out here.
This is a bit of a setup shot for the Japanese. They won't be able to lie shot, I don't think, after this stone, but they're trying to position their own stone to perhaps make a run in on a later shot. First task is to get it to the house, though. Well, they think they've got a chance to sneak it around there. Brushers are really working it.
The line was really good there.
Oh, it was a great attempt. Maybe 1 foot short.
Still have a few yellow stones out there, though, so they can run back in. Especially this stone along the center line here on the left-hand side. Might be able to run it back or even just tap it in. So no, maybe not an easy shot, but there's definitely some possibilities out there for Japan. And we did see Japanese skip Ogasawara make a really nice run back yesterday to set up a steal of 1.
Liu Jin Lee on the out turn. Trying to navigate this port. Oh, fantastic result. Removes the Japanese stone and rolls her own behind cover. Great shot there from Liu Jin Lee. Look at the replay. Just squeaks by that guard. Makes contact on the yellow and spins it, offering her own shot rock protection. So now Japan's in a world of hurt. You can see those two Chinese stones perfectly guarded. So not so many very good options here for the Japanese. They could run their own straight back. It's a very difficult shot.
Well, with the ice being taken, looks like she might be just tapping it back, the center guard stone.
Definitely not taking ice for the run back, Sander, you're right. Might be thinking about just gently promoting her own stone forward into the 4 foot area. But any option you've got right now for Japan isn't a very good one. China's in a great position.
Yeah, this is really hard. Not even just getting the line and the weight correctly. You just really got to squeeze very tight by the red stones here to get shot stone, I think, after making contact.
Hard work from the Japanese brushers. They are trying to promote their own stone into the 4 foot. Where will it come to rest?
Wow.
That's an incredible shot. Another pistol from Ayumi Ogasawara.
Can't believe it. That's such a hard shot to make. That is really, really difficult. She makes it look easy.
That is an awesome shot. Another big time saver from Ayumi Ogasawara. China still has last rock, though. And there is a red center guard that is promotable, so there is an opportunity for China to run their own back, but it is a long, long run back, probably 10 or 15 feet. And not much room for error. She's got to navigate past that stone in the top 8 foot as well to make this shot. Great shot from Ayumi. So even though the Japanese women's team has been struggling a little bit in this event, we've seen some incredible shots from their skip, keeping them in games. Challenge for them is to push over the top and actually get some wins as a result of some of this great shooting. Here's Liu Xia trying to respond. Straight back. Oh, what an incredible result for Liu Xia. Clipped that top stone in the top of the 8 foot, but still gets by and removes the Japanese stone. So anything you can do, I can do better. Clip, clip, gone. Wow. We're seeing some top class shooting here, Sander, at the Pacific Asia Curling Championships. 2 shots back to back from the skips that hard to think about how they could be thrown any better. So Liu Xia answers the call The challenge thrown down by Ayumi Ogasawara with an incredible long run back. China's line 2.
Well, let's see if Ogasawara can follow this up with a draw around the center guards then. Still a chance to steal. Sweeping it for line, got to get past the guard firstly, but then also got to get past the Redstones in the house.
Now it's Wade. The sweepers are really working it.
Got to get it down there. That's not going to happen.
Just short.
So that's going to be at least a score of 2 for China then. We're going to try and figure out a way to maybe score 3 as well. And that would make it possible 8 shots to 4 game with 2 ends to go. And that could be prove really difficult for Japan then.
Well, an absolutely pulsating 8th end. Back and forth, great shot for great shot. But the Chinese have held their nerve and it's paying off for them. This can really lock it for them in this game. Leading 5-4, they've got last rock, they're line 2. And they've got the intern draw around the pile for a possible 3rd point. Look at all those rocks in play. We've seen some incredible shooting in this end. Not an easy shot for Lucy Jia, however. Has to go way out in the wings here. In the hands of the sweepers. Yushin Ray and Wang Ray. Last stone of end number 8. Sweepers think it has plenty.
Yeah, maybe just play it a bit more weight here, thinking it would be slow out there. And I think it's going to slip too far.
Slightly too far, swept back by Japanese third Yoshimura, so it's only 2 for China, but 2 nonetheless. A huge deuce in the 8th end. China taking a 7-4 lead into the 9th. So Sander, that 8th end, you saw a little bit of everything in there. Some incredible shots. Looked like Japan was going to pull it out of the fire and maybe steal this end, and then an incredible run back from Lucy Jia, removing that shot. And the Chinese taking control of this one here in the 8th. We hope you're enjoying the live coverage here from the Pacific Asia Curling Championships. We'll quickly update some of the other scores that are going on in this draw. In the women's event on Sheet E, Korea is leading Australia 9 points to 2 after the 7th end of play. On Sheet C in the men's event, the Japanese have defeated Kazakhstan. That game has just ended. Japan 14, Kazakhstan 2. So the Japanese men's team opened their account with a win. In the men's event on Sheet B, Korea versus Australia. Korea leads that one 6-3. They're playing end number 8. And in Sheet A in the men's event, Chinese Taipei versus New Zealand. Chinese Taipei is leading that one 3-1, and we see a measure in end number 8, so we'll wait for the outcome of that one. Meanwhile, here in our feature game, in the women's draw, China versus Japan. China with a big score of 2 on the 8th end. They're leading this one 7-4, playing end number 9. 10 ends of play here. And Sander Rolvag, if you're the Japanese and you're in this situation, what are you thinking about in terms of how to play this 9th end?
Guards, guards, guards. I think you're pretty much going to have to do what they have done in the last few ends. Just this time they have last stone, so they're looking for the corner guards rather than the center guards. But again, just going to have to take advantage of the free guard zone and try and make softer shots, try and play a lot more draws, maybe try and keep as many Chinese stones in play as possible, just trying to complicate things. You don't want to be throwing hits, that's for sure. As you see, China actually not happy enough with the stone positioning here. Red stone, a bit too far up in the house, but could act as a guard. Japan could have been able to draw around that later in the end, so they feel like their chances are improved by removing the red stone rather than keeping it there. So you'll see China being very defensive, not wanting to keep any stones in play.
Japanese lead, Yumi Funayama, trying to get one of those guard stones that Sander referred to in play.
Yeah, with the first guard being so long, I think they're going to try and draw around it, hoping China will peel off the top yellow, and that way they'll have a good guard remaining. So that's a very good draw around the corner. China will peel off the top guard. So that's why China is giving away 2 points to Japan, really, if they don't miss too many shots. But they'll be happy to go away 2, knowing they'll have last stone in the 10th end with a 1 point lead. So
this is where playing the scoreboard becomes quite important. So with a 3 point lead, as Sander pointed out, China would be quite happy just to peel single guards. They're not so worried about making double peels anymore. They just want to eliminate Japanese stones. And if the result means that Japan winds up scoring 2, they would still carry a 1 point lead into the 10th and final end, and they would have last rock. Japanese brushers really working this one.
And now realizing they're probably not going to get these stones leveled, so just want to make it an awkward angle for a double. And they have. I think it might be just a tad risky going for the double here for Lucia, but
well, she did have a look at the angle. Might be trying to run it across into the other stone.
Hasn't really told her player much. So I think they might just be going for the straight peel. We'll see.
Nicely done. And we have the result of that measure in that men's match between Chinese Taipei and New Zealand. New Zealand stole 1 point, so they're back in this game. Taipei still leads at 3 points to 2. Kenny Thompson's New Zealand team is clawing their way back into that match.
Korea in a bit of trouble against Australia too, although leading by 3 points. Australia now lying 3 with no guards, with last stone in the 8th end. So
and that could be a huge turnaround, Sander. Kaho Onodera putting on her overshoe as she switches from shooting to sweeping. A bit of a nose hit there, small error from the Chinese. They were trying to peel that rock off, but they've nosed it. And that's a guard that Japan can use. Small opening here for the Japanese. Let's see if they can make something of it.
Plan now for Japan is to draw around this red stone, and then you'll see probably China try and peel off the corner guard again. Then Japan can draw around the other corner guard, and then probably China's going to try and hit the open one, and Japan can draw around the corner guard again. So that's the way you try and score 3 on this end here. So that's exactly what they wanted, a nose hit. Well, they're going to have to make 3 really good draws though. This first one's looking pretty good.
Yes, just by the guard. Comes to rest on the tee line. Nice shot. Sayaka Yoshimura. Perfectly behind that guard. And sometimes you can say that you're lulling your opponent into a trap. So with a 3 point lead, a conservative play for Team China might just be to eliminate that corner guard and concede the 2. But they're being tempted into trying to follow that one down. Now it looks like they're having second thoughts about that and might just be looking to eliminate the guard. We'll see.
Seemed like Lucia wanted to maybe play a freeze here, but her teammates convinced her not to. So even if Japan gets a chance to score 3 here playing the corner guard peel, it's probably worth taking it off.
Absolutely. So the dangerous corner guard is removed. Japan lies 1.
So as expected, Japan now will draw around the other corner guard. As I see the Korean skip making a triple there against Australia, so probably cutting down the score by a big margin. Important shot.
Oh, it's a shame we didn't have video of it, but it was a fantastic triple takeout.
That was the men's Korean skip I was talking about. Facing some trouble against the Australian boys.
Flirting with the corner guard here. Bit of an error for Japan. They needed that one around the corner guard, but they've crashed. Disappointment there for Yoshimura.
Yeah, now the three's certainly out of the picture. Still a chance to score 2 though. China will hit this open one, and Karuizawa is going to have to try and draw around those yellow corner guards.
Yeah.
Just enough to remove it.
Will she stay in the rings? No, rolls out of the rings. So as Sandarova said, a bit of a chance here for Japan to use those corner guards, either curl around them or promote one of them into the rings. Still a long road back for the Japanese, though. Even if they can score 2 here, they will have to steal the 10th end to force an extra end. Keeping an eye on some of the other games in play, we've just seen the Korean men's team attempt to make a double takeout on the Australians, just missing it. So Australia does have a free draw here for 2. Which, if fourth player Ian Palangio can make it, would draw them within 1 point. Here is Ayumi Ogasawara. Critical draw here, must make this one. Trying to get by the guard and hide it. Have they got enough weight? No, it's short.
She's been short on a few draws here.
So, bit of a disaster for the Japanese, unfortunately. They really did need that one in the rings. So here's an opportunity for Lucy Ya to really put this game away. If she can get one into the rings, a bit behind those Japanese guards, force Japan to take one or perhaps even steal herself. China's in great shape going into the 10th.
Ian Palangio did make that draw for Australia, so they scored 2 in the 8th end. Korean men's team leading 6 shots to 5 coming into the 9th end.
Chinese skip, Lucy Ya. Trying to close this one out. Wang Rei, Yu Xin Rei on the brushes. Has she got enough weight? Great line, but just short.
You wonder if that path down there is a bit slower.
Could be fudging up late in the game a little bit, Sander. We've seen a few draws come short here late in the game.
You know, the question is there a possible chance to split a couple of yellows in. I'm not sure if that's going to be possible.
The angles are great. She could potentially feather off that outside one and spin the other one into the rings, but it's a very low percentage shot. But saying that,
You have to
1
try it.
point is no good to the Japanese at all. They need to try and figure out some miracle way to score 2 here.
I think maybe the shot is...
And they are calling timeouts, so they are going to confer with their coach, Fuji Miki.
I think if you play a soft hit on the top yellow, catch that fairly thin, and then you roll with your shear down onto the left, tap
Yes,
the white stone in.
I agree. That's the only shot for 2.
That's
might
there
make-
for 2.
You might make that one once or twice out of 100. Very difficult shot, but you have to try it.
Well, I think for Karuizawa, and the shot's possible. She's made a couple of good ones, so we're gonna have the coach coming down.
なんかいきそうだね。10って10でしょ。10だったらこれ出ちゃうよ。
いやこれ薄く当てなきゃいけないからこれが
そっか。
ボードじゃちょっと遅い。
藤美希。
遅いね。
これ当てなきゃいけない。
それじゃあ、かぶちゃん言うと。
Coming down here, gonna have a listen.
なんか見れなかったから。
ある？基礎10ぐらいの上。2番のストーンをちょっと当てて上に6番。
We have to take a chance.
もう3だからね。
Just take a chance. 1取ってもね、足りない。So you're going to hit that red one?
のここ。
中をちょっと当てて上に上がる感じで。
あるしかない。多分1も。
したら逃げそうだね、こっちにね。え？同じ。これに当たっちゃうよね。キープするなら。こっちはないか。逃げるな。これは横に飛ぶんだ。これがどこまで行くかですよ。
これぐらいだよね。
これに当たると思う。やってみる？
9後半
Well,
ぐらい
can't really make out too much of the Japanese, but
これに当たるんだったら
surely there's not too many options
ちょっと
here.
早い方がいいか。
気持ち的に10でいいと思う。
10だけど。
It looks like they're gonna go
この
ちょっと
辺に当てたい。
取ってもいいかも。
for what me and Hans discussed here. Just
ちょっと
take off the top yellow. And then you'll have that 2-stone combination
ないと思うけど、とりあえ
slide
ずやって
into
み
the
る。
house. Really difficult shot. It's gonna have to
ちょっと遅くならない。
catch that top one really thinly. And you can't throw too much weight either because your shooter has to
あ、ちょっと多いかな。
and roll to the right here and tap that other yellow in. This could be shot of the week if she makes it. So last shot here for Japanese skip Ayumi Ogasawara. Really tough shot. And she can make it here.
She's got contact.
No, that's not gonna work out. Curls too much, and it's gonna actually be a blank end.
Brave attempt there from the Japanese, but it doesn't come off.
でもなくはないかも。
And they'll be 3 down playing the 10th.
あるね。
Well,
She had to try it though, didn't she, Sander?
yeah, absolutely. Had to try that shot. And now the blank end, you could say maybe better off keeping last stone, trying to score 3 than stealing
Score
2.
Yeah, it could
Oh.
be. It's going to be a difficult road back because the Chinese are almost certainly going to throw their first stone through the rings. So it'll be hard for them to stack enough to try and score their 3, but that's their task. China, on the other hand, will be looking to eliminate as many stones as possible, and they're definitely not going to leave any of their own in play if they can avoid it. So Chinese lead Wang Rei, just being told to throw it through the rings.
要是没球，这边球可以打逆时了，慢色点。可以，我给你一般就能逆时，我就都给你逆时了。
We have another game that's finished. Korea, Australia in the women's draw. Korea won 10 shots to 3 after 9 ends.
Wen Young Kim and her team are really on a roll here. They defeated this Japanese team yesterday in a really fantastic game. It was our feature game yesterday. They continue their hot streak and they're undefeated. They're 3-0.
Throw the second shot through as well. Wang Rei.
China playing the percentages. China wouldn't mind even if Japan scored 2. See, you're shrugging your shoulders. Yep, that's fine. I'll throw it through. Yumi Funiyama trying to get some of those guard stones in play that Sandra Rolfik referred to. Trying to generate something here. Japan has to score 3 to tie this up.
So just looking to peel the corner guards now. Team China. As Chinese Taipei is looking to score a huge 3 in the 9th end against New Zealand. And that's going to bring up to a 6 shots to 3 lead before the 10th end. So
yeah, it's a tough road back for the Kiwis from there. Chinese Taipei, we talked earlier about Kazakhstan having a really tough time against the really high quality Japanese team today. Chinese Taipei have really improved by leaps and bounds. When they started competing at this level, they really struggled to compete, but now they're improving year on year, and they're a real threat. And they're certainly taking it to Team New Zealand today. China looking to close this one out. They're up 3. Just eliminating Japanese stones whenever they get the opportunity. Nicely done. Kaho Onadera trying to get another guard in place.
Yeah, pretty much looking to apply the same tactics as in the previous end. Just looking for a miss. Just need the one miss to have a potential chance of scoring 3 here.
So this hometown crowd in Karuizawa, hoping that miss happens. It's going to be a long road back for their favored hometown team, however, trailing 3 points in this 10th end. Chinese team doing a really nice job in this end in terms of clearing the guards.
这边我
Liu
那一
Jinli
送
doing a
人
great job there.
窒息するよね。
Early in the broadcast, Sandarovic mentioned the change in the World Curling Federation rules around time clocks. This tournament is being played under the existing time clock rule, which gives teams 73 minutes total time to complete all their shots. That rule will be changing soon, and it won't be running time, it will be so-called thinking time. But we are noticing in one of the men's games, in terms of time management, the Australian men's team are going to be a little bit challenged. They've got about 6.5 minutes on their clock, playing the 9th end with a skips rock yet to come, so I would say they'll probably have about 5 minutes of time to play their 10th end. Not impossible, but again, we talked earlier about time management, and you want to have a little bit of time up your sleeve when you're having to play those critical shots at the end of the game.
No problems with time in our future game though. Remember, they played two very fast and simple, quick blank ends. Well, they were supposed to be blank ends, but they ended up being forced with an error from both skips, both in the first and second end. So they saved some time. Team Japan's got more than 8 minutes left here to play their remaining shots, so that's not a factor.
Japanese third, Sayaka Yoshimura. So the Chinese have done a great job running the guards. Japan has to count 3, so at some point they have to throw another one into the house. So at this point, if you're Japan, you're really just trying to line them up and make the target small. Hope for a miss. So there's the guard. Covers the shot rock nicely. But the Chinese are just trying to keep their cool. They know they should win from here. They just have to keep calm and remove Japanese stones.
刚才好几次了，我就想问你。
Chinese skip Lucia taking care to clean the surface in front of the stone. Last thing you want at this stage in the game is to lose one of your shots because it's picked something up, so they take a little extra time. And as Sanders said, time is an issue. They've got tons of it. Trying to remove one of these Japanese counters. Clears the guard. So the execution here from Team China here in the 10th end has been flawless. Throwing it through, removing guards. Japan likewise has made all their shots, but their task is much tougher. They have to score 3. So Japanese skip Ayumi Ogasawara has no choice but to throw another stone into the rings on this shot. In the hands of the brushers, they have to get this one into the rings or the game is over. Funayama, Onodera working it hard. Got to get it at least close to the rings to have some kind of a chance, and they're just short.
Well,
theoretically splittable, but not the kind of shot you want to leave yourself.
It's a bit strange. Ogasawara has been coming up short on 4 occasions. From my counting.
Very unusual for her. But for Lucia, the task is clear. Just make contact with this stone and you're the winner.
Probably the last shot here. Green light, so that's a good start. Having released the stone before the hog line. And sweepers just keeping this one clean all the way down. And we'll make contact with the yellow. So that's a win for China.
Nice job by the Chinese. They've really controlled most of this contest, and they come out the 7-4 winners. So Liu Xia and her teammates, Wang Rei, Yushin Rei, Liu Jinli, they go to 2-0 in this event. Following up their win yesterday with another win today over host Japan. China goes to 2-0. Japan goes to 1-2.
I gotta say I was impressed by the Chinese girls. I haven't really seen them play that much, but although being a little bit defensive, they were making a lot of shots. So making the simple shots well, but also pulling a few rabbits out the hat. If you remember that run back Liu Xia had.
Absolutely, that 8th end was absolutely amazing, and you're absolutely right, Sander. An incredible run back to answer an incredible shot from Ayumi Ogasawara in the 8th end. So I agree, this Chinese women's team is very impressive. A bit of an unknown quantity with a couple of new players and a couple of players with some international experience as alternates, but yeah, they really delivered on the ice today, taking this one out 7-4.
Just taking a look elsewhere in the arena, we saw Korea beat Australia 10-3 in the women's draw. We had Japan beat Kazakhstan 14-2 in the men's draw. Still 2 games out there, 2 men's games. It's Australia trailing Korea by 2 shots, having last stone in the 10th end and less than 5 minutes to play their play their shots. Could be a little tight for time, while Chinese Taipei is leading New Zealand 6 shots to 3. They're also in the 10th end, seeming to have a bit of control in that end. We're gonna have a few look backs on our future game today between China and Japan.
So let's have a look at some of the highlights from our feature game today. Here on end number 6, Japanese skip Ogasawara having to make a hit, had a chance for 2 but jammed it on her own. So that was a chance for the Japanese to get back in the game. It was a bit telling and perhaps an indication of how the rest of the game was going to pan out. Here in the 8th end, we saw an incredible raise. Look at this. Promotes softly against 2 counters through a bunch of traffic and into the back of the button. That was great, but watch greater. Yeah. Following that shot, Chinese skip Liu Xia, out-turn raise, tick, bang, removes the Japanese counter to lie 2. Back-to-back, unbelievably good shots in the 8th end.
Ended up scoring 2 in that end as well. In the 10th, China with a 3-shot lead, no problems, made all their peels. Really good end and just an open hit to win the game for Liu Xia and Team China.
So again, there we see our line score. China 7, Japan 4. A fantastic draw here, and thank you so much for joining us today for our live coverage from the Pacific Asia Curling Championships. We hope you're enjoying our live coverage. We love hearing from you. We'll be back again later today with another feature match live from the Karuizawa Ice Park Curling Hall. We look forward to joining us later today. For my partner Sander Rolvag, I'm Hans Frauenlob. Thank you for joining us on World Curling Television.